As we all know, we celebrate today as a World NGO Day. The theme of today is the sustainability, building a sustainable future. And even this is an event originated from European Union. This day serves as an opportunity for NGOs worldwide to exchange knowledge, share experiences, and foster collaboration with the public and private sector. Our venture with One NGO commenced in 2020 with the vision of Vasudeva Kudumbakam, encapsulating the belief that the world is one family. Our aim is to uplift and empower India's social sector, fostering a sense of unity and cooperation. Over the past 4 years, One NGO has made a significant impact, creating 1,100 plus websites, more than 500 social media pages, enabled 270 NGOs to collect donation online, manage social media accounts for 70 NGOs. We have led the way in advancing digital literacy within the sector, organizing 283 workshops in multiple languages covering a wide range of topics. And our partnership extends to numerous NGOs associations nationwide as well. Also, to keep promote our NGO, we organize One NGO Digital Awards annually. Beyond digital support, we also actively contribute to old age homes and orphanages. We have recently started conducting the physical auditing for our partner NGOs to enhance the visibility to the donors. So in the summary, and also I should mainly mention this, our dedication has recently gained a international recognition through the CSR Excellence Award 2023, establishing One NGO the most impactful digital NGO solutions firm in India by the Business Concept, which is a UK-based business magazine. Okay. So in summary, One NGO stands a beacon for positive change in the NGO sector, connecting, supporting, and recognizing the invaluable contribution for NGOs across the nation. So this was about One NGO. Now I would like to invite our moderator for today, Ms. Jeshashree Sen. We address her as Jesho. She is heading operations at One NGO with more than 12 years of experience in the NGO sector. She is a passionate person for development sector. Her experience in CSR, communication, government project has made her an expertise in training and communication. Her current experience in One NGO, where she and her team is responsible for digital literacy of the NGOs. Currently, she manages a team of 6 members. So I invite Jesho to introduce the topic and also to our panel, to the entire team. So over to you, Jesho. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina. And I would also like to see a bit of raised hand from our panelists. I can see Sunitha. I can also see Satyajit, and Aarti is also here. So let me first rename them. Hello, sir. Hello, Sunitha, and hello, Aarti. So thank you. Thank you. So, yes, thank you so much. I would also like to remind my colleagues to admit people as and when they come. Okay, so let's start with our today's session. Let me first introduce the topic, why we have chosen this particular topic. This particular topic, like effectiveness and integrity of NGOs. Now today, this particular 2 words, effectiveness and integrity, have been lot of coming into the NGO sector a lot. Okay, a lot of licenses getting revoked, etc. So we won't go to the bad part, but yes, integrity and effectiveness is something that the NGO sector is talking about. We also have panelists who will be actually talking how to increase that and best practices for increasing the organizational capacity there, and that leads to increasing the trust and credibility. So this is today's topic, and today let me introduce my 3 eminent panelists. Aarti Krishnan. So Aarti, you are here, right? Can you just say hello to our guests and our participants?
Hi, Jashashri. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Yes, we can hear you. Let me spotlight you for everyone. Aarti is right now heading the business India Partner Network. It's a Satva consultancy initiative. She is a development management professional with over 20 years of work experience in the areas of research, consulting, enterprise building across for-profit and non-profit sectors. She is passionate about tying the data and development together. She believes that developing and implementing data-driven projects, policies, and partnerships can bring that sustainability in projects and as well as in organization. An alumnus of BITS, Pilani, she is joining us from Bangalore. Hello, Aarti, and welcome to this session.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi. My second guest, Mr. Satyajit Gupta. Mr. Satyajit Gupta is a dual qualified lawyer, both from India and England. His career spanned over 20 years. With his 20 years, he has worked with top law firms. At present, he is the Vice President and Assistant General Counsel. He's also heading the legal team of the company and the Global Head of CSR at EXL Services, which is one of the successful global IT companies, as well as listed in NASDAQ as a public company. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Can you hear me and can you say hello to our guests?
Hi. I hope I'm audible. I'm very happy to join this week. And
yes, sir. You're audible. Yes, sir. You're audible now. A bit, if you can put your microphone a bit closer to your. Yeah, this is better.
Sure.
Yeah, this is
Thank
better.
you. Thank you. Look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My third panelist, Sunitha Suresh. Hi, Sunitha. Can you hear us?
Hi. Hello, everybody.
Yes. Hi. Sunitha is heading the program and finance lead at Dhwani Foundation. With more than 17 years of work experience, Sunitha has successfully managed finance, MIS credibility assurance across NGOs and corporates. Her forte in organizational development has kept Dhwani Foundation lead in its business. She is an alumnus of Warwick University and she's joining us from Bangalore.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Sunitha. Hi.
Looking forward to this.
Thank you so much. So let's start with our today's session. So my request to all of you, not a request, this is an information to all of you. This session is going live on Facebook as well as we are recording it. So I hope all our panelists and everyone is okay with the same.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so let's start. My first question, this is common to all three of you. So I'll start with Aarti. So since all of you have an experience of more than 2 decades, right? So expanding 2 decades. So right now, Aarti, how do you actually rate the effectiveness of NGOs in today creating impact?
Sure. So effectiveness of NGOs, I would say that it's a very nuanced word. It has various factors that are at play. One is organization mission, the scope, the kind of resources that they have, which is including human capital and funding, the socioeconomic context within which it's operating. And we're celebrating the World NGO Day, and specifically to point out, many NGOs have made significant impact in creating socioeconomic changes. And their key strengths is basically to their ability to reach and mobilize several grassroots communities, especially where the government and the private sectors do not penetrate. But what happens is the effectiveness does get hampered by the challenges which are pertaining around funding, regulatory hurdles. There are issues with scaling their programs, overall sustainability of the organization as well as the impact of the programs. And this is more particularly, which I feel, coming from my experience, the small and the medium NGOs in India face a tough time gaining the effectiveness, the credibility that they, the kind of work that they do, they should have. They often have limited funds. The staff is not something that they completely have a solid grounding on. They have a struggle of potential visibility, and it's hard to keep up with several kinds of complex rules and even building the professional skills. And the biggest of all, I would say, is also the strong connections, which makes it very hard for them to grow. And what I've also learned is when we talk about effectiveness, there is a diversity of the kind of NGOs within the country, and this makes effectiveness also vary significantly. Some NGOs are achieving more substantial and measurable impacts than the others. So there's no one standard measure. And somewhere in our long-term vision, this is one of the impediments that we hope to solve for, where taking it from a capacity building level, can we find a common ground for organizational effectiveness by strengthening their overall functional base, the due diligence, the maturity, and the visibility. But yeah, I would say that it's very diverse. There is no one standard measure to call upon and kind of rely on.
Okay. Thanks, Aarti. So I'll take that one thing from you, that's COVID-19. So Mr. Satyajit Gupta is over here, and one of his forte, when I was reading his bio, sir, you have written that one of your noteworthy work that has been done is you during COVID-19, you had effectively tied up that with your business. How does it impact the business? Okay. So my two questions to you, sir, is it like has COVID affected our NGO sector, one, and their effectiveness? And two is the common question, how are you rating that effectiveness of the NGOs, and how are they creating the impact?
Sure. So I would say definitely, right? I mean, COVID has impacted all of us, and like others, I think the NGO sector as well. I think that it's been remiss of me, but yeah, I wanted to wish all the folks who have joined here today on World NGO Day. I think it's an important day to recognize the contribution of NGOs to us, to all of us, to civil society as a whole. Our experience during COVID was, a lot of the work that we did, where we were trying to help the communities around us, was through NGOs and was through various NGOs, including NGOs we work with regularly, as well as newer in the sense relationship-wise NGOs we had not worked with ever. So whether it was in terms of trying to find, organizations that we're working in our in areas or communities we live in terms of providing things like basic amenities, to obviously looking at health and similar relief efforts. We try to do it all, and I think that experience gave us an extremely good understanding of certain tests that we will, I'm sure we'll be talking about today, in terms of what really makes for an effective NGO. But we saw, a lot of it became, while of course at that time there was a lot of desperation and there was the need, quickly. But obviously, we saw, and certain times we had a gut instinct about a certain NGO, and finally played out when we saw the impact of the work they did. And I would say, in terms of our final analysis, was that organizations which had built themselves up, which had created capabilities within capacity within themselves to run, whether it was in terms of having checks and balances internally, whether it was in terms of having proper controls internally, those ultimately delivered the best results for our COVID relief programs or any other programs around that time and thereafter as well. So I think definitely this is a great, not only is it a great topic, but this is a topic which has been something which has come up for us time and again, especially when we look at the the quantum of funds which came into this sector, which NGOs had access to during this time. So of course, not all NGOs, some NGOs did, and at the smaller, and probably there are a lot of NGOs which were also impacted negatively through those times. But definitely, to answer your question, COVID-19 taught us a lot, and I think the basic thing was just ensuring that NGOs we work with have the internal the capacity to deal with and manage and utilize the funds that they need.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for that question. So I take one thing from there. It's your gut instinct that you said. So I'll come back to you on that. So yes, Sunitha. So the same question is to you as well. You are handling NGOs. You have seen NGOs for so many years, and how do you rate their effectiveness right now in terms of creating their impact? Yeah.
So I had many questions, so when this question came up on effectiveness. So what is effectiveness really? I mean, are we talking about impact? Then it's very long term. Otherwise, we are just sort of looking at outputs and outcomes, which is, always measured by a donor who is funding for the first 1 or 2 or 3 years, right? Impact is very long term in that sense. Then if we are looking at cost per beneficiary sort of thing, then it's very relative, right? Somebody who wants to do very deep work with very limited number of beneficiaries, the cost per beneficiary is going to be very high. If you're looking at scaling, then your cost per beneficiary will be low for the same work, right? So, and there are some people who want to scale, some people who choose not to scale, right? So I think effectiveness can be measured very differently for different NGOs, and the way they choose to operate also, determines that. But I think largely, like both of them said, I think there are a lot of challenges. How do you make yourself more effective it depends on how grassroots you are, how rural you are, how urban exposure, access to resources, or just the capacity of the employees in the organization. Is it all dependent on one person versus then is there a team to, support the leader? So there are a lot of questions, and in that sense, I think a lot of nudges or support that is required to the sector to make it a lot more effective than what we are doing currently. But nevertheless, we need all our NGOs today to go to that last mile, to take that benefit to the people, So yeah, congratulations to everybody. There are about 55 people here, and I think most of us are from the sector. And best wishes on World NGO Day to everybody here.
Thank you so much, Sunitha, and wish you the same as well. So my second question, this is related to organizational capacity or organization building, what you can say. So I'll start with Sunitha. Sunitha, how do you observe that NGOs, while they have adopted technology, have their organizational capacity or effectiveness of impacting on the beneficiaries? Like they have, as you said, that effectiveness is a large term, but let me very specifically tell you that whether they were able to create some impact on the beneficiary's life. Okay, so somebody was benefited. So while they adopted technology, has it helped in enhancing their effectiveness?
So at Dhwani, as part of our capacity building program, I think we wanted to create a module on technology. And every time we, started building that module, the question was, where should we start? Because there are organizations who maybe need help with even joining a Zoom call. Or connecting their laptop to a Wi-Fi network, etc. And then there are these other end of the spectrum, which is looking for the next level of technology to scale and increase their impact. So in that sense, yes, I think COVID forced most people to move to adopting some sort of technology at some level. But definitely, I think it is the new buzzword, and everybody wants to adopt a technology. But I think it needs to be relevant, and it needs to be to what is practically required for each organization. I don't think we can generalize in that sense. And it's also part of the evolution of every organization. So as they grow, I think people need to adopt more complex technology. Otherwise, it's also sort of limiting, right? You're not taking the people with you if you don't get them to be trained to use this technology. So nobody should be left behind in an organization. So keeping that in mind, I think if we are able to adopt technology and take the organization forward, I think that is key. But in terms of documentation, communication to the external world, definitely technology is helping. I think a lot of leaders, founders, teams of NGOs are realizing this and trying their best to adopt what is relevant for them.
Okay, so that means you say that there is some level of increase in the effectiveness of how NGOs work when they adopt technology. Okay, thanks for that insight, Sunitha. So the question slightly changes both for Satyajit and as well as Aarti. I'll come to Satyajit at the end of this one. So Aarti, this is regarding organizational capability, right? So we see the intent, the moral compass of NGOs are correct. Okay. But as a sector, like you have been in this sector, you have also been in the profit-making sector as well. Where do you find that, is there any lacking? First of all, do you see this? Is there any lacking in NGOs in getting their organizational capacities, making their organization a capable one? And the second part of the question is, what is your assessment on where they are in terms of improvement?
Sure. No, completely, I understand where you're coming from, Jashishree here. So, I mean, if I reflect upon those deep-rooted desires an NGO has to make a difference in the society, it's driven heavily by values and commitment. But that's great. But when we look at the organization capabilities, if I have to call that out specifically, it's a mixed bag of certain progresses that we have made, some challenges which are still there. I wouldn't call it's more of a lack, but I think it's just temporary roadblocks which can be, fixed, or at least, we can bridge those gaps. So if I look specifically at the positive side, and Satyajit talked about it, Sunitha talked about it. So there's definitely a digital, leap which has got accelerated because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So NGOs have shown the capabilities that they are ready to adapt and innovate. So several NGOs we've come across where they are embracing technology in their operations. They are using it for their outreach. Several digital tools are being used for the project management level or even donor engagement. Some places it's direct intervention, so which is great. There is also, growing awareness about, the importance of creating transparency and accountability as an organization. Many NGOs in India are making efforts to adhere to good governance practices. They are taking care of their regular audits, those impact assessments, and public reporting. So I think that's like a great positive side to look at. So because this is eventually helping them build trust within the donor ecosystem, there are several stakeholders who need to have this visibility. So that also improves their internal efficiency at large. If I take the other side, which is more like the challenge which needs to get addressed, is I think the biggest of all is the resource constraint seems to be across all NGOs, across different sectors and geographies. Despite all the passion and commitment, NGOs are constantly, plagued with limited financial resources, limited human capital, and this scarcity is impacting their ability to attract and retain talent, take that effort to build capacity building as a continuous improvement strategy within their organization, scale their overall programmatic goals. Now, there is also, because of this, an attached lack of professional development opportunities, which is also causing a high burnout. There are high turnover, which is noted within the NGOs. And this kind of a professionalism requires an investment and commitment. And this is something I feel currently NGOs are lacking. Not exactly lacking, but I think it's a struggle, and it requires an ecosystem-wide shift in the mindset to bridge that gap. The other area where I feel the struggle is more on the strategic planning and sustainability viewpoint. So we are pretty much focused on the impact goals and aligned programs, which is good to get the various indicators in place. But it requires to have an important long-term planning view as well as on the financial sustainability as well. Unfortunately, it's more of a catch-22 because there is an external dependency on external funding, which is an essential piece to sustain the operations. But yeah, broadly, I would say that these are the two big areas where the struggle is maximum for an NGO. The third area, which I feel is, I think, an opportunity to collaborate and network. This is something which seems to be a big miss. Several NGOs doing amazing work at the grassroots, like I said earlier. They are not at least visible. They're not spotlighted. They don't know who else to network and connect with and how to expand their overall engagement zones. This kind of a successful partnership opportunity, I think as a sector, if they come together, they'll benefit a lot with more of a coordinated effort. There's also a need for sharing different kinds of learnings and resources, best practices, what worked, what didn't work. And that's how I think overall innovation and overall capability building will start falling into place. But yes, that's how I would, kind of summarize it, that it's more of a, phased organization maturity at a sector level and also at an individual level, where it's important to look at some of the strategic planning and sustainability planning alongside various of the programmatic goals.
Okay. Thanks so much, Aarti, for this insight. So, Satyajit, the question for this, the same, this particular set of question, like organizational capacities, is slightly changes for you. Since you are the global head of your company and looking after CSR. So, do you see any difference in adaptability in NGOs in India and vis-a-vis NGOs in other developing nations?
Right, right. So I think the first point here which I would make is that really, I have actually seen NGOs in Africa, I've seen some NGOs in Asia, and of course India. And I would frankly say that, look, my experience with NGOs in India has been far better than some other countries. And that's from, I mean, even NGOs which are newly set up, which are probably haven't had the time to build that capacity and probably have a number of other hurdles to deal with. Even in those situations, they are far more, found them far more responsive, more, I think, at least they put in the effort to try and provide what you need, what has been asked of them, and also, I mean, at least broad brush average perspective, they do, in my experience, more or less do what they committed to do. So I think definitely if we look at, and of course NGOs have been around in India for many years now, and I think while of course there are, I think the genesis of this topic was also around probably some recent developments, and there are of course NGOs which have not had the best track record and haven't had very good experience. But I think if you ask me for pure comparison, I would definitely say the organizations I have seen in India are far more, at least in a better place than organizations in other parts of the world that we've done. So I think I would say that, look, definitely we are doing something right.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So my next question, that's on trust and credibility. So Aarti, this question is for you. So what factors enhance credibility, and lack of which factors actually directly impact the assessment of the NGO's credibility?
Sure. So factors that play a crucial role, I would say, so in fact, to take a step back, we talked about effectiveness. So credibility is basically the backbone on which effectiveness will be built. One of the important factors would be, to put it out as basic as credibility 101, is transparency and accountability. NGOs that are open about their operations, the financials, the different kinds of impact metrics that they've built, this will enable them to foster a culture of trust, make the work and their team more credible. There is the other line of an important factor that plays a role here is there has to be a consistency in action, the kind of communication, the kind of advocacy an NGO is practicing. That's super critical to enhance credibility. Whenever an organization is continuously delivering on its promises, it's aligning its actions to its overall stated mission, It's maintaining a steady course of its advocacy efforts to ensure that there's no mission deviation. All of this combined will reinforce trust among its stakeholders. So this is very core, both these points, consistency as well as transparency and accountability. This is super core. At the peripheral level as a team, coming together, learning and sharing is another critical factor. An organization that's committed to learning as a team is like disseminating different kinds of valuable insights and information that they have gathered. That actually builds an intellectual foundation. It brings their positioning as a thought leader in their domain, which is again, an important indicator of credibility. It allows them to voice their, advocacy points. It helps them, clearly nuance out how they see the problem, and that adds to the credibility. And last but not the least, I would say, I think, is the broader communication in all your narratives and impact reports, any kind of testimony. All of this, when it's tied together with that common one unified message, I think that also adds to credibility. A lot of people, it's easy for individuals, corporates, or even foundations, large organizations. It's possible to build trust with organizations that are having consistency in their communication. Their stories are verifiable. Their work is kind of standing out in the same manner across different kinds of communication. All of this collectively adds to the credibility, I would say. Yeah. Jashashri, you're muted.
Yes. Sorry for that. So thanks, Aarti. So Sunitha, while we are talking about credibility and trust, so as a part of your organization's commitment to capacity building for NGOs, which specific areas do you emphasize to enhance the trust level of NGOs so that they are more trustworthy among donors and donor organizations?
So we work across 8 aspects of an organization, and as a capacity building program, we emphasize equally on all 8 aspects.
Just one moment, Sunitha. Yeah, please go ahead, Sunitha.
Sure. So, like I said, we focus on 8 aspects of any organization we work with through that capacity building program, and we emphasize equally on all these 8 aspects. Of course, the first, sort of 4 aspects are very operational, where we are looking at compliance, finance, data documentation, data collection, which is the MIS part, or HR practices, etc. But these are, again, directly sort of indicating transparency, like Aarti said, or bringing in credibility, because these are numbers and compliances and that. And then there are these other 4 aspects where we look at, what are you going to do in the next 3 years, or who is there in the governing body? Do we have independent board members? Do we have, are we revisiting our mission, questioning ourselves, what we are doing? Can we do something differently? So there are a lot of these aspects which we focus on, which I think brings together the people in an organization, in working towards that mission. And it's also removing that dependency from a one-man show to a team or an organization. So just adding to what Aarti mentioned, I think building a second line leadership, for example, and making sure the organization is going to exist beyond that one person, and there is long-term investment and thinking is something I think very important, because all that comes as part of your communication to any external stakeholder, whether it's donors, speaking to governments, building new partnerships, it could be anything. But I think obviously credibility oozes out when you have all of these things in place. And there are several people taking different roles and speaking the same thing about the organization. When you talk about the board or employees or management or even beneficiaries who go out and speak about the benefits that they have received. So I think it's an overall organization building that we'll have to focus on. Otherwise, it's a very, or compliance is done, accounting is done. But I think as an organization, are we looking at credibility? So then it is more holistic in that sense. So as part of our program, yeah, we do even development technology as your previous question, right? So we do sort of bring in various tools. One NGO support is another one that is part of our program as well. So visibility, accounting itself from manual can we move to tally. A lot of this data collection about the program can we use software, a simple software that can track programs better. Then reporting is easier. Can we do due diligence over instead of sort of 2 days? Can we finish it in 2 hours? That gives a lot more confidence to the donor that you have everything in place and you're able to just give all the documents to them for a very short span of time. So a lot of this behavioral changes, but which is coming from a lot of work that has happened in building each aspect of the organization. I think brings in a lot of credibility.
Thanks, Sunitha, and also thanks for your appreciation towards One NGO. So Satyajit, while you are interacting with NGOs and trying to onboard for your CSR program, so where do you rank the aspects of trust and credibility? Where it comes, at what rank it comes?
So I think for us, trust and credibility is extremely important. If you think of our CSR process and our NGO onboarding process, we of course do a number of number of sub processes and processes within that. Obviously, look at things starting from the basic constitutional documents to the past reports, etc. But I think the basic test we're trying to look at is whether the organization is is credible, is trustworthy, tangible, will they do what they promised to do or what we agree to do. So I think just to answer your question, it's clearly something which is extremely important. And for that purpose, we do a number of tests, but unfortunately, there's no, in many geographies, we don't have maybe, let's just say, independent third-party, sort of rankings, etc. But wherever we find organizations, let's say, and they are, for example, verified by independent partners, independent organizations which do rate agencies and NGO, we will definitely look at it. I mean, for example, in the US and all of that, we look at something called Charity Navigator, which will be extremely good work of looking at some standard metrics which help us understand how NGOs work. So I think, just to answer your question, trust, credibility are number one for us. We will look for whatever we can to verify and ensure that we are able to provide our findings on this before we onboard or start working with a partner.
Okay, thank you so much. So credibility and trust definitely stands at number one. So that's what this question is actually, this answer is coming up from everybody. So yes, we are moving towards the end of this session. I have few, this is another more related to capacity building. So I'll start with Sunitha. So Sunitha, can you cite some example where NGOs are really able to make a greater impact after their capabilities were increased?
Sure. So I think clearly the one very attractive outcome is funds raised year on year. But I think how one is able to sustain that fundraising sort of growth year is due to many other changes that they would have brought about in the organization. So there is a lot more openness, in terms of collaborations or building new partnerships, because of which they maybe are able to scale to newer geographies or to more beneficiaries overall, which maybe they were a lot more closed earlier in that sense. I think another easy win is the due diligence part, which I mentioned earlier, and any data that is required, which is easily available and they're able to give to any stakeholder for that matter. The confidence levels of the organization team goes up drastically. Everybody is a lot more confident to do external facing conversations, and maybe they go out and talk about their organizations with pride, and which itself brings in opens a lot of doors for the organization. So funds raised is definitely one, but I'm talking about how that is achieved sort of year on year due to so many other factors which opens up a lot of things for the organization. So the other part is, of course, I think the beneficiaries, being open to the beneficiaries. I've heard in a couple of organizations where they've actually opened up their books to their beneficiaries, because they're so open and transparent, which changes the game then, it's about what is the level of transparency are we talking about actually. So I think there's a lot of things that we could go on and on, but these are some quick things that we have seen. Of course, impact is more long term. So I don't want to get into that, but we've seen organizations where, the leader passed away and the organization continues to function the way it was functioning earlier because a board member sort of stepped in and took charge. So I think there are a lot of things that happen with building capacities. A second line leadership that I'm talking about, right? So I think
Okay.
the choices are plenty on what can happen.
Correct. So thanks for citing those examples. So Aarti, how do you actually link maturity of an organization, of an NGO with capacity building? I'm sticking to the word capacity building a lot because this is what our theme is for today. And we want to actually enhance the importance of capacity building with our NGO partners. Yes, Aarti, so how do you link capacity building with the maturity of NGOs?
No, absolutely. And the linkage is very strong here, Shri, I would say. It's like drawing a roadmap for the organization's journey from the time when they began towards, coming to a level where they are self-sufficient and further going ahead to have a much more strategic outlook. Sunitha talked about how, they come in for a better succession planning. And if I specifically take our learnings from what we have gathered on IPN, our approach has been to, have a far more structured pathways for NGOs to evolve and mature, because this evolution, from the capacity building at a functional level to an organization maturity, it's very critical, not just for their survival today, but it's also to make a lasting impact. And by maturity, I specifically would say that it's not operational. It is something at an organization development level, which is going beyond the current operations, but it's about being ready for future challenges, better opportunities that come your way. So it's about committing to going beyond programs and having an effort to putting robust systems and processes in place, having a clear strategic direction, the agility that you require to adapt to the changing times and the environments, all of that compiled together would define maturity, I would say. And that's where I think the capacity building is an important linkage there. And in our case, what we have learned is our way of assessing capacity building is a foundation step. So it's like where an NGO can identify its current capability gaps, have the specific areas that require strengthening. So some of these things we are going to be keenly building it on our platform as well. This is crucial as an introspective process for setting the stage for targeted capacity building. It's in simple terms, if I have to put it, it's like Google Maps. You need to know where you are and where you want to go. And without that understanding, any kind of attempt at growth or improvement can be heavily misdirected. And once that kind of a visibility is in place, your maturity in terms of what is it that needs to be implemented based on your capacity gaps, how to monitor that makes sure that you're on the right path to becoming more effective and credible in the long run. So I'd say that, why the linkage is very, very strong. And at the same time, assessing capacity building with maturity in mind, it's not like a starting or an ending point at a static level, but it's more like a dynamic state. It's about helping organizations get very organized, very strategic and forward-looking in their outlook. Like I mentioned, it's moving beyond programs, it's moving beyond individual leadership to building a more sustainable management system which can hold your overall missions and objectives from a long-term point of view. And capacity is the way to help you with the transition. Yeah.
That's wonderful, wonderful.
I just want to add one thing here
Yeah,
to
please
this.
go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
maturity, in our experience, I think is completely unrelated to the age of the NGO. I just want to mention it here because we have organizations who are 3 years old or 35 years old, but going through the same sort of learning cycle and growth, at this point of time. So I just wanted to just put it out.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I do agree that when I mean maturity is, of course, the number of years of operation is not related to what I said. Thanks for that. So Satyajit, I have a question related to this. So while you're selecting NGOs or while you're dealing with NGOs, so do you think that larger NGOs is what is your preference? Because sometimes size does reflect a better capacity to deliver. Do you agree with this statement?
So I think I would actually say, look, it's not it's not necessary that every large NGO would be in terms of capacity to deliver exactly what you want, maybe higher. I think also similarly, I think as we I think have said, it does not depend on age as well. I think it depends on, if you look at maturity, if you look at capacity, these are all, these all have to be, in my mind, judged basis, specific project that one is looking for, or the specific, sort of area one is looking to make an intervention in. And I would say that when we select NGOs, while many NGOs we work with, or partners we work with, are partners which have been around for almost, actually, some of them have been around for as long as we have, which is about 25 years for us. So definitely in those cases, we do find usually they're able to handle the project. But we have, for example, gone with, let's say, much more younger or much more, sometimes smaller NGOs, because we do find that they're probably specifically for the specific project we're looking for, or the area we want to intervene, they are more agile and they're able to and actually move quicker and be more responsive. Sometimes larger could also mean that they have certain their focus areas, priorities may not actually align with ours, and that could in fact lead to, let's say, it could negatively impact the project. So I would really say it depends on actually what you want to do, where you want to look at, what is the exact impact you want, and sometimes you may be able to find a smaller and probably younger organization, maybe more better equipped for the task.
Okay, so what I understood is that it's project specific. So it doesn't matter. The size actually doesn't matter. It's project specific as per your values of your organization. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you so much. So yes, Aarti, so do you really think that when we are developing a few best practices for our organizational development, technology does come naturally to many NGOs? And if the answer is no, so what can they do to make this technology, to develop technology is one of their best practices?
So many NGOs find it tricky, particularly, very small NGOs operating in remote geographies, but many of them are getting good at it, I would say. They are able to see the value technology brings on board, because they've now been able to witness how it can boost their work. To specifically say that what can be the best practices is my, first step would be to start small. Pick one area where you have a certain basic understanding and where technology can make a big difference. And I think that's a good base to start and focus on that. Something that we have learned, with our engagements with NGOs is continuous learning by doing is key. So attending workshops or online courses, making sure that what's being discussed, you are at least trying it out. You're going back to the subject matter experts, taking their, inputs on how to refine the understanding that you have. That can, make your team and overall, making sure that you have had a good, comfortable understanding of how to bring that technology into use. And like Sunitha talked about some time back, it's about bringing the whole team together. The SDGs overall guiding principle of no one is left behind is very important for a successful technology adoption. It's the other way to look at is also maybe to look around and see what are the other successful NGOs doing. And these are certain kind of stories we try and capture. We exchange it with our NGOs to help them understand what can be done better with technology. What else can you learn from other successful such case studies? Particularly in the case of India Partner Network, we partner with a lot of technology organizations who provide such valuable insights and support. That also helps build the digital readiness for an NGO, and that too across the team. So broadly are these, but just lastly as a point to add here, it's very important for an NGO, or for that matter any organization, to keep this end goal in mind, that technology is not merely a tool or any kind of an app or a gadget. It's eventually an enabler to help you make your work easier. So the focus needs to be on how do you make sure that you make the correct choice while you are looking for what works for you rather than what you like. So keeping that end goal in mind, I think it just becomes much easier to adopt.
Great. Thanks, Aarti. Thanks for this insight. Sunitha, regarding this same, best practices for organizational development. So, what are the elements that can be included by an NGO to say that yes, these are my best practices in organizational development?
So definitely, I think transparency on compliance, finance accounts, etc., are very foundational. Like we say, clean the house first before we go out and sort of exhibit yourself outside. So that is a given, I think. But apart from this, if I sort of rise above all of these operational aspects, I think one thing that we need to revisit or keep asking ourselves is, why do we exist as an NGO? I think that strong reason on why we exist, and keep reminding ourselves and our team about it, because that leads to a lot of, it's a ripple effect, I think. So this is something that we promote as part of our strategy building. So once in 3 years or 5 years, it's a whole exercise that we usually ask organizations to go through. And then of course, second line leadership, middle level management, building that layer which can run the organization, where the leader can go out and network or fundraise or do the external facing activities, I think is very critical for the organization. The other aspect which organically happens if the leader starts stepping out is the collaborations and new partnerships. So I think if these three, so I'm not talking about the 8 aspects that we work on, because I think I'm just adding on to that and going further here.
Okay. Thanks, Sunitha. So, Satyajit, I have a bit different question on this best practices. Specifically, I want to know about NGO leaders or NGO representatives and their proficiency in a particular language. And when I mean particular language, that is English. Do you think that an NGO in India must know or must have proficiency in English? And if they don't, it is a hurdle for the organization to develop.
So I think here I will say that unfortunately rather, I would probably have to agree with you. I think we are still swayed a lot by, in fact, not only English but nowadays, especially when it comes to corporates, a lot by the quality of the presentations which are made, the way data and is presented, the responsiveness of, let's say, the NGO to emails, ability to come out and present on calls. And there are many of the softer areas, skills, and I would say, which are important, of course, but I think sometimes overshadows the work because sometimes, as we say, the first impressions made are quite lasting. And typically, when there are many NGOs which are quoting donors and corporates, sometimes it seems like a safer bet for many of the corporates to go with an NGO which appears to be well managed, people speak well, communicate well, etc. And hence, if you see a lot of companies, there's always that, of course, that's not the topic here, but there's always, we do see a lot of CSR money going to urban areas, going into education, going into specific areas which I think are easier for corporates to deal with, understand, and sort of figure out, and handle themselves. So I would say yes. I mean, I think unfortunately that is, in my mind, in my view, that is definitely something which does happen a lot in terms of if the individual leaders are not very good at presenting and speaking whatever language I guess the donor is conversant with, it becomes it's a lot of hard work to come back from them.
Okay. Okay. So representation in a proper manner, maybe English is one of the languages, something which is required. Okay. So we have come to an end of the discussion. So the last request to all our three panelists, one concluding statement on how capacity building can lead to building trust and credibility in NGOs. We will start with Aarti. Yeah.
Sure. Capacity building is very critical for any kind of a trust or credibility. We have already been discussing, so I don't want to kind of emphasize further on it. But I would say that it's no more a function-based growth today. It has to be at a systemic level. You're thinking of capacity building should be at an overall organization level, because it's more of a virtuous cycle, because as you empower organizations with the knowledge and the network and the kind of visibility they need to operate effectively, you're not just strengthening the organizational capabilities from internal, but you're also setting a foundation for them to start having a far more stronger strategic outlook. You talk about sustainability from a long-term perspective. You start having a better succession planning and stronger management systems in place. All of this collectively, like I said earlier, it's very important to have build trust with the donors. And these are important such factors that play a role here. And it goes beyond donors, like how Sunitha talked about it. It is at a wider community level, at the communities that you serve, and hence a better impact. So I would just say that committing to capacity building is committing to credibility building. And somewhere in our platform as well, this is exactly what is our focus, to provide as many diverse capacity building opportunities, so that it's taking at a systemic level upliftment of an NGO and not just functional level.
Okay. Thanks, Aarti. So, Satyajit, what is your concluding statement regarding how capacity building can enhance credibility and trust?
So, I mean, I would actually say they probably need to move in parallel. I would say, frankly, the organization needs to obviously concentrate on making sure that they're able to deliver and make the intervention that we need to. In parallel, we also need to invest in capacity building. I think it's quite clear. And I think the panelists have also been quite clear that really capacity building is important. And I think as an organization grows, with time becomes larger and gets into more areas, I think definitely capacity building is important. But I think it should happen in parallel, hand in hand. And I think as an organization becomes larger, I think the capacity also, and also the various areas in which an intervention required from a capacity building perspective also changes. So I think that's also something to be kept in mind, but definitely needs to start from day one and needs to keep happening. It's not a one-time activity that you just do it once and go away. And I think somebody very kindly told me they can't hear me, but maybe if you are able to hear me, Yashasri, you can just summarize what I said.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I'll definitely do. But before Sunitha, I want to hear it from Sunitha. Yeah, Sunitha, your concluding statement.
Yeah, I think I was just, while yes, capacity building is important, whose responsibility is capacity building of the NGOs is what something I was wondering. I mean, we leave it to the NGOs to struggle to capacity build themselves, right? I think as a in the ecosystem, I think all the players should take it as a collective responsibility to work towards capacity building of the organizations we work with. And in whatever the relationship is, it doesn't matter. But I think if we look at it that way, I think the ecosystem sort of develops and builds. And yeah, so I think everything else, I agree with what Aarti and Satyajit just mentioned. Is just, I think, whose responsibility is it is what I was throughout this conversation.
So thank you so much. So what I could understand from all of you is that Aarti said that it has to be functional, capacity building must be functional, and Satyajit said that it's not, it sizes as the NGO size increases, project size increases, the approach to capacity building differs. And as Sunitha said, that who is responsible, whose responsibility is it? It has to be the entire organization's responsibility. So with this, I would like to end this panel discussion. So thank you so much to all the three panelists for this insightful thoughts and your approaches and thinking about what actually helps NGOs to build their trust among donor and the donor organizations. So now we are 5-4. We just take 1 minute if there is any question from the group. If anyone wants to ask any question from the group. So Pandey sir, do you have a question? So Mr. A.N. Pandey is joining us from Jharkhand. He is from Gramika, India. Sir, do you have any questions, sir?
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Actually, I have been hearing from many donors that the small and new NGOs are their preferences for funding. But at the same time, we have seen even Dhwani Foundation has decided their minimum transaction for the NGO, their partner, to be rupees 35 lakhs per year. So for a small and new NGO, it is not possible from our experience. So what should be the way that the small and new NGOs could be able to take funding support from donors?
Should I?
Yeah, please, Sunitha. I was about to tell you. Yeah. Sunitha, would you like to take this question? Yeah.
Sure. So, sir, in Jharkhand, we've started a Nirantara Classic program, which is one of our programs where it's a very intense program of currently about 24 months. And we think that newer organizations who are very small, who haven't had the struggle of doing certain things, might find this entire program very meaningless, pointless in that sense, because we are talking about 205 parameters to be implemented within your organization. So for this particular program, it might be too intense for somebody who's too small. But at the same time, we do have other programs. So we have various programs to address different organizations at different stages of evolution. So we are looking at a sort of lighter version of this Nirantara Sahai program, which is about 6 months for 30 lakh below organizations. We have Drishti, which is an e-learning platform where people can go learn and implement at their own pace, which is for even smaller organizations. So we are trying to, address and work with every segment in the sector, irrespective of the size, but sort of customizing the program to the needs of that particular segment. So just to address that one particular question, but I'm sure there are multiple organizations who are looking to work with. I hear even there are some of the donors who earlier worked with big organizations who are now reaching out with smaller grants to smaller organizations. So I'm sure we need NGOs in all sizes and shapes. Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add to what Sunitha said, there is a need to start looking at the next league of organizations who have the capability to grow and start, that at least the learning journey has to start for them so that they can think about scale. With this intent only, the India Partner Network was actually kind of, come into a format where the small and the medium-sized organizations who have so far not managed to come through any kind of a capacity program, or for that matter, they may have multiple constraints to take time out for their capacity initiatives in between programs. So just being in touch, the larger goal for the platform is also to provide visibility to very small and medium-sized NGOs, which are mostly like less than 1 crore kind of a budget. So we have a diverse, network of over 1,100 NGOs as of today. It's been about 6 months since our platform launch. That's also a space where you can start building your visibility as you gear up for various kind of capacity initiatives. So it's important to stay in the learning curve. It's important to make sure that you don't drop off the learning agenda, and keep having a bite-sized access to learning or very specific topic related address that you want to kind of take care of from a functional point of view. But at the same time, keep your mission in place. And as you grow and ready enough, you definitely fit into a program like how Sunitha talked about under the Dhwani program. So those are the aspects I just wanted to kind of point out, that India Partner Network is also one space for you to come and register and stay up to date on various of the capacity initiatives.
Thanks. Thanks, Aarti. So I hope Pandya's question has been answered. So one of my colleague, she has a question. So Sahana, please go ahead.
Hi everyone, myself Zahana. First, let me tell you, this was such an insightful, session so far, and I got to learn so many things being in this session. So thank you for that, for all the panelists and for all our team members. So my question is, what should we, as a person or the organization who are into the NGO sector, should change in themselves to make, the NGO sector more significant and prominent for the future and for the present we are now? What is that one change we should definitely make in ourselves or in organization to keep going and to keep growing in this sector?
Yeah, Aarti, can you take this up?
Sure. So Sana, specifically to add, it's not only an NGO change, like Sunitha said, whose responsibility is it? I would say that there are many stakeholders at play over here. But if I have to specifically address your question from an NGO standpoint, I think the biggest need, and one of the reasons why IPN also came into being, was there is an urgent need to commit yourself to capacity intermittently, if not continuously. Intermittently, take that effort to grow as a team. And that is something only an NGO can do. I mean, there are plenty of opportunities for an NGO to identify. Some you qualify, some you don't. Some places you get funding, some places you don't. But in a combination, it's about wanting to be a learning organization, wanting to have your entire team grow with you, so that it's no more an individual level growth. Somebody is always ready to fill the shoes in for others. It's that commitment and that mental as well as time investment more than anything else, which an NGO can do. But apart from that, I think there are many other stakeholders at play over here who have their individual roles to contribute to strengthen this whole idea of capacity building, which is leading to an overall developmental impact and at a large scale level. So yeah, that's just, I would like to summarize it as is. It's just about a commitment and a mental and time investment. I hope I could answer your question, Sahana.
Yeah, thank you so much for your answer. That was also valuable to hear from you. I think Joshua ma'am, you are muted right now, so
I'm continuously talking. That's why I'm thinking why nobody's listening to. Yeah, so yes, thanks, Aarti, for that insightful answer, and also Sahana for your question. So my session ends here. So we have Nina, over to Nina. So Nina, I think will be here with a vote of thanks and the poll. Yeah, over to you, Nina.
Yeah, thank you, Jashu, and thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. So now we all know how important a feedback is. So now let's launch the poll. So I request all the participants to vote and give your valuable feedback. So Jashu, can you please launch the poll?
I have launched the poll.
Is
it?
It is not visible on the screen.
Is it not? Yeah, it has.
Yeah. It's visible.
Yeah.
So I request all the participants to give us your valuable feedback. Thank you. 5 of them have given their feedback. So I request others also to give your feedbacks.
So a few more and then we'll stop the poll.
Yeah, sure. Like
let 50% and then we will stop the poll. Yeah.
Sure, Jashu. So can others also give your feedback? So that is so important for our future sessions and everything. So please give your feedbacks.
Yeah, we have 50%. We can end the poll.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
So thank you all. So now I take this opportunity on behalf of One NGO Trust to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and everyone for joining us today. First and foremost, I would like to express a sincerest appreciation to our esteemed panelists, Aarti Krishnan, Satyajit Gupta, and Sunitha Suresh. Your insightful contribution and expertise have truly enriched our discussion and provided invaluable insight for all of us. So thank you once again to 3 of you. I want to express our gratitude to all the participants who took the time to join us today. Your engagement and participation have been instrumental in making this webinar a meaningful and impactful event. So thank you for all our NGO partners who have joined today. Thank you. Last but not the least, I would like to extend our deepest thanks to our incredible members of our One NGO team, Priya Karnik, Gururaj partners, Shobha Arun, Jashasri, Rajesh, Priyanka, Sirisha, Sahana, and Yashaswini. Your dedication and hard work or commitment have played a crucial role in making this webinar a resounding one. So we hope that you all have gained a valuable insights and inspiration from today's discussion. I thank you all once again for your unwavering support and participation. So thank you so much, everyone. So I hope we can see in future with so much of discussions, much more in the coming days. So thank you.
So thanks to everyone. Thanks, Aarti. Thanks, Sunitha. Thanks, Satyajit. I think he's left. Okay, and thanks to everyone. So the meeting ends here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
சரிங்க சார் 7 மணிக்கு எனக்கு அந்த PDF அனுப்புங்க அப்புறமா